It's like a little hurricane. It's the best. Yeah.
Hold on.
So cool. Where are you from?
Melbourne, Australia.
How were you discovered?
I suppose through just like inability to not make as much noise as possible at all times. Like I think that I pushed myself into the consciousness of other people, and I did a lot of drama classes when I was young, and my mum always had just a unwavering faith in me, so she just pushed me into things, and I did my first TV show when I was 13, and it sort of has been a steady flow of jobs, good and awful, ever since.
What have you been in?
I mean, since I've started, I did a show called The Sleepover Club, a TV show called Neighbours, a film called Tomorrow and the War Began, various other little indie films that the names of which are escaping me right now, and recently Please Like Me for Pivot and the CW's Rain.
How do you feel about this career?
It's tricky because there's a polarity that exists within me of wanting to pursue acting, but also wanting to reject the vapidity that accompanies it, and also wanting to be a person of principle, and yet having to relinquish a stranglehold over those principles when things come along that are good opportunities. And yeah, so it's tough.
How did you decide to become an actor?
Once again, just because, I mean, my reasons for being an actor now have differed from when I was younger. Nowadays, it's more about wanting to maintain a lifestyle so I can promote, fund, and work with other people and other projects, and try to sort of be as philanthropic as possible through a creative lens. But when I first started, it was just I wanted to be famous. Like, I just wanted everyone to be looking at me all the time.
How would you describe your specialty or type?
I don't really know. I think that, like I said, there's like a polarity. Like, I'm a very dichotomous individual who's all at once incredibly self-effacing and likes to think she has an incredible sense of humour, but also I have no sense of humour about the things that I really, really care about. So I would say a combining of pretty firm seriousness and complete hopelessness, because I'm a completely useless grown-up.
Who's your favourite actor who you look up to?
I think Robin Wright is an incredible actor, and I think more so the fact that, like, she seems to have shone more so in her latter years as an actor than her formative years. And of course she's always been incredibly talented, and you read all these interviews with her where she's, describes her relationship with her ex-husband and her relationship to sort of her fledgling career and how it disappeared, and I think that she's just so talented and timeless and incredible.
What would your ideal job be?
I'd want to go work with orangutans in Borneo, basically. That's my ideal gig.
Do you consider yourself to be lucky?
Yeah, I'm a person who has absolutely benefited from various privileges, some systemic, some circumstantial, and others, through my own hard work. But yeah, I'm incredibly lucky.
What advantages do you have?
I mean, I was born able-bodied. I never had to worry about the mechanics of my own, physicality. I've never been discriminated against because of it. I was born into a well-to-do family, not well-to-do but middle class, and I never wanted for anything. Really, I've had quite a charmed life in that I've been able to pursue a job that is highly coveted and difficult to pursue, and I've been able to make a living out of it. In saying that, there are a million things that, the world has presented me with, one of them being a woman, and that makes life infinitely harder, but I am definitely luckier than, I would say, 90% of the world.
What did you do before acting?
Well, because I started when I was a teenager, I guess I was learning to walk, I was learning to tie my shoes, I was at school, and just being a regular kid, basically.
Again, would you rather have a car or a diploma?
A diploma, definitely. I think that like education is vital in combating millions of things, whereas cars are just a means to an end, and will definitely assure our destruction.
How do you feel about globalization?
It's funny because I obviously am dependent on it, as are many people, and being a vegan means that like I have to eat out of season and that I have to use products that aren't necessarily from the countries that I'm in. But I also think that it's lent itself to the West exporting their labour and exporting their torment to other countries. It's incredibly beneficial for Western civilization to profit off of poverty. So while I get that it is sort of like something that can't be undone as of now, I think it's pretty terrible, to be honest. I like the idea of like local farming, of local organic, like community gardens, of less abattoirs, less mass-produced product, I think.
How do you feel about the amount of stuff people buy?
It's grotesque. It's absolutely grotesque. And only recently did I realise how much stuff I personally had. I was moving house, and I have just amassed so much crap over my life, and things that at the time felt incredibly important to me, and that now I look back over them, you don't need any of it. I think advertising is obviously to blame. I think a culture of shaming people is to blame, because we convince people that they need these things, and that to be valid, to be wanted, desired, needed, you need to buy into a culture of materialism.
Would you rather live the American way or be a socialist?
Socialist, absolutely. And I mean, look, I'm obviously like the ultimate capitalist at the moment. I'm working in a job that pays extortionate amounts of money to people that don't really deserve it. But if I could, I mean, I've always been fine with taxes. Like, tax me as much as you fucking want. And obviously, like, it doesn't really work when you live in a capitalist society, because you then get taxed a shit ton and then you can't afford things. But I would much rather have much higher taxes, have free education, free healthcare, have a better working, like, police system, like law system. Yeah, socialism.
What does the future look like to you?
Bleak. Because, and it's not because I don't believe in humanity's capacity for empathy and change, it's that I don't think the world is going to survive long enough to see that, like, revolution occur. So what disheartens me the most is that I can see the tides turning ever so slightly, even in just the past year or so, with social activism and political activism. But at the same time, like, CO2 levels are rising, the oceans are rising, the glaciers are melting, polar bears are getting their dicks snapped off. I'm not kidding, that's actually something that's happening because of pollution. And pandas don't want to have sex with each other, so there's less of them. Like, I don't see a way out of it. I know that there are many, like, ecologists and environmentalists who have sort of thrown their hands up in the air and said, forget it. That really breaks my heart.
How do you feel about having children?
I think, once again, there is this, like, polarity that exists where I think if you really love your children, you will leave them unborn, unnamed, in the void, because what my children will be inheriting won't be worth the agony they'll go through in trying to change it, perhaps. I would love to give birth to the kid that would change the world. I also would love to see a smaller version of myself, because I think I'm a good person and could raise a good person. But I want to adopt, first and foremost. Whether I have my own children or not, I'm not sure. But I definitely want to adopt and, like, absorb a life that has already been brought into the world through no desire of its own, and help that come to fruition and grow and help other people, rather than create a whole new mouth to feed, I guess. But I love babies so much. I love them. I say hi to every baby I meet.
What conflicts or challenges is the world facing today?
I mean, too many to mention. The problem with these issues is that they are systemic and they're structural. So it's a matter of somehow disbanding the the stipulations that were put in place long before you and I existed, that then led to us going down this path. And of course, like, fear and greed and hate are far more mobilizing than any other emotion or motive. Love, compassion, forgiveness, while obviously very powerful, are inherently quite passive. So I think what we have to do is we have to empower our children with weaponized love and empathy, because the biggest issue is that empathy is seen as a weakness, and it's also easily taken advantage of, and it doesn't necessarily benefit you financially, materially. Yeah, it's convincing people that helping one another in love is way more rewarding than dollars or, you know, merchandise.
What is your favorite way to communicate?
Through language. Like, I love talking. I don't think I could ever move to, I mean, I'm ashamedly only monolinguistic. I wish I spoke many languages, but yeah, I could never move to a country where I didn't speak the language, because the nuances of English are so important to me. The nuances of any language. And so yeah, just like, and through humor. I honestly think that, like, the only way to really reach people is to make them laugh. Because you can sit someone down and tell them all the statistics, all the facts, all of these sort of like harrowing realities, but most of the time they're going to ignore it because they're so desensitized. But through comedy and through lightheartedness, I do think it brings about change. I think John Oliver, Jon Stewart, Colbert, even SNL became like big political pundits because people wanted to listen to something that resonated with them but also made them laugh. So I think that that's kind of the way forward, which is crazy to me, to think that like future like presidential debates could just be like written by comedians.
What do you think of the creative scene in Los Angeles?
It's funny because I'm only just starting to sort of tap into it now, and I'm trying to seek out as many female filmmakers as possible to try and create like a female-based web channel through herself.com, which is my website. It's really cool. I think that tragically there is this air of like apathy and like detachment that comes from Los Angeles a little bit. Like, it is really fucking cool, and I want to like access sincerity. Like, I would love an artistic community that was based on sincerity rather than like affectation, I think. And that's not to say that everybody is affected, but it's just that seems to be the strongest essence, the strongest vibe throughout this place, I guess.
What is your favorite book, music, and film right now?
My favorite book, oh, actually, no, my favorite book is Matilda by Roald Dahl. And I love To Kill a Mockingbird, which is very typical, I know, but it was the first book I ever read that was like outside of my own experience. Because everything I read was about young girls loving boys and like going through girl things. So yeah, I love that. And Matilda, because it's about a young female protagonist who's exceptional, and you don't get to read those every day. Favorite film? I love The Princess Bride and most Disney films, which is really antithetical to how I feel about Disney princesses. But yeah, and what was the other one? Favorite book, movie? Oh, music. I've been listening to a lot of Joni Mitchell and Fleetwood Mac recently, and also like a lot of Jurassic 5. So like very different ends of the spectrum there.
Okay.